Hello, I'm Randy McClure. Welcome to the latest supply chain tech brief. The chain just works, where data flows without a hitch between every single system, every partner is on the same page, digitally speaking, and your decisions are backed by crystal clear insights. Now, this isn't some far off fantasy. It's actually the promise of something called semantic interoperability. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. This quote from George Bernard Shaw, it just hits the nail on the head. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. This perfectly describes this huge, kind of hidden problem that's lurking in pretty much all of our modern supply chains. We think our systems are talking to each other, right? But a lot of the time, it's just an illusion. And believe me, that illusion is costing businesses a ton of money. Because when that so called communication fails, when the data gets mixed up or misinterpreted, the consequences are absolutely real. I mean, we're talking about serious, costly delays, stockouts that come out of nowhere, and at the end of the day, really unhappy customers. It's basically the digital version of a massive misunderstanding, and it's happening over and over again, thousands of times a day. Okay, so right about now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, my systems are integrated. We've done the work. And that right there is the heart of the problem. A lot of businesses have this mistaken belief that just connecting their systems, just plugging them into each other, is enough to solve the whole data communication puzzle. Well, spoiler alert, it's not. And here's where we get to the really crucial difference. Look, data integration is basically just about moving a file from point A to point B. Think of it like mailing a letter. The job is done once it's delivered. But semantic interoperability, that's a whole different ballgame. That's about making sure the person who gets that letter understands exactly what you meant to say with zero room for confusion. And this is not a small problem, not by a long shot. Get this. A DigiBee survey found that IT teams are spending a full quarter of their time trying to fix broken data integration projects. A quarter. So why is that? Well, it's because they're stuck in this endless loop of trying to manually guess how to map data from one system to another. They don't have the business context, so it's just guesswork. And that's a massive, expensive waste of time. I mean, this Mark Twain quote just says it all, doesn't it? The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. This is so true for data. A tiny little ambiguity, something that seems like a minor detail, can cascade into a huge, costly error. Getting the data almost right is basically the same as getting it wrong. You need that lightning strike precision. So, with all that said, how in the world do we fix this massive communication breakdown? Well, this is where we pivot from the problem to the solution. And it's all about achieving a shared meaning for our data. Okay, so let's get a little formal for a second. The air traffic management community, and you can bet they care about clear communication, they define it like this. Now, the key phrase to lock onto here is unambiguous shared meaning. Really, what we're talking about is creating a common language, kind of like a universal translator for all of our different systems. But, I really love this simpler definition from the European Commission. It just gets right to the point. Ensuring what is sent is what is understood. It's so simple, but it's perfect. It captures the entire goal. Because at the end of the day, this isn't an academic exercise. It's all about making our data useful and actionable. It's about turning those raw ones and zeros into something that can actually help us make smarter business decisions. Because let's be honest, data that just sits there in a database is totally useless. But data that is truly understood, that becomes one of your most powerful assets. And here's the thing, this isn't just a supply chain problem, not at all. I mean, just look at this list. We're talking about international aviation, public administration across the EU, healthcare, defense, the Internet of Things. All of these huge critical sectors are realizing that they have to solve this problem. It's absolutely essential for them to work together and be efficient. All right, so we've covered the what and the why. We know what this is, and we know why it's so important. So the big question now is, how do we actually do it? How do we get there? Well, turns out there's a really clear four-step framework that can show us the path. So let's walk through this. First up, you have to adopt a data-centric mindset. That just means you start treating your data like the incredibly valuable business asset that it actually is. Then, step two, leverage standards development organizations, or SDOs. Why reinvent the wheel, right? These groups have already built common data languages for tons of industries. Step three is a big one. Move away from proprietary data interfaces. Those custom built one off connections are the very things that create those frustrating data silos in the first place. And finally, step four, start using modern tech like AI and knowledge centric tools to help automate this whole process of creating and maintaining that shared understanding. Okay, so we've gone through the problem, we've looked at the solution, and we've walked through the framework. Let's kind of bring it all home now. The whole point of all this, the ultimate goal, is to completely change how your organization thinks about and uses its data. So, if you're going to take away just a few key things from all of this, let them be these three. Number one, simply integrating your systems is only the first step, it's not the final goal. Number two, real, true communication needs that shared, unambiguous meaning we talked about. And number three, the good news is there's a clear four-step framework to actually achieve this. When you really boil it all down, this whole complex technical challenge comes back to a very simple, very human idea. It doesn't matter if it's between two people or two computer systems, effective communication is always the best way to solve problems. And so that really just leaves one final question. And this one's for you to think about in your own organization. Take a good, honest look at your data flows. Are your systems really communicating? Are they truly understanding each other? Or are they just creating a very convincing and ultimately very expensive illusion? Hello, this is Raymond McClure from SC Tech Insights. Thank you for listening. For more on this topic, click the article link below or go to www.sctechinsights.com for the latest insights on supply chain technology. Thank you and see you next time.